Good evening, guys. Welcome to Gear Night. Rusty here, and we're back. We're back for Thursday night, talking equipment, talking guns, all that sort of stuff. Andy is in the room tonight. How are you, Andy?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, going all right, mate. Going all right. The screen's a little bit further away than normal, and I don't know if can't see what's happening. Anyway, I'm getting the 30-second delay. All good. Well, I hope you guys are well. If you're in the chat, if you're here tonight, send us some comments. Say g'day, and we'll give you a shout out. It's good to see a bunch of people watching already. Very excited. Tonight's guest should be no stranger to you. If he is, well, prepare to have your life changed. But he will is the man behind the Long Gun Project and various other things, but just a general all-round solid bloke. But you'll probably recognise him if you've been following the Impact Dynamics journey from the live shows. He was a producer on that live show, getting all the guests lined up and ready. Joined us for multiple shows, which was awesome to have him there. We talked about social media, a bunch of stuff. But anyway, joining me tonight, Ben Jarratt. Here he is, mate. How you going, Ben?
Yeah, good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, going well. We're getting a few comments rolling in. Steve Blacker's here, and Danny's here as well from Delta. So, g'day, guys. Hope you're
excellent.
Doing well. Yeah, what's happening out there in wherever you are in the middle of nowhere?
Out in the flat plains of West New South Wales, mate. Not much. We've had a bit of rain, and things are actually green for the first time in a decade. So it's quite nice actually.
Yeah.
Look, a little bit of stuff going on. We can still move around New South Wales and ACT fairly freely. So unlike our poor cousins down in Victoria. So been still able to do a bit of shooting, which has been really good. I was across in breezing through Canberra the other day and had a chance to chat to Steve Blacker
Nice.
and Jay when I was there. Got home yesterday from that trip. But got a club shoot this weekend, shotguns this weekend. So going to spend my Saturday setting traps with and swearing at myself and tripping over shit I should know is there, and just trying to get all that set up so that we actually have a successful shoot on Sunday. So that's been about it.
Fantastic, mate. Well, good to see getting some shooting, good to see you getting out and about, and it's all exciting stuff. G'day to Warwick and Robert and Ryan and Neil, all here as well in the chat. It's awesome to have a few guys going along. Oh, and a few more, Lindsay and Wayne. Excellent. All right, all sorts of stuff. It's all happening. Well, mate, we need to start off with the obvious question: is what was the first gun you shot?
First gun I ever shot was a Jervarm 22 semi-auto. Yep, semi-auto 22.
Yep.
It was an interesting. It was fired from an open breech. So you'd cock it, you'd lock it back, and as you squeeze the trigger, the whole bolt mechanism would go forward and pick up a round, slam it home, and fire it. So,
wow,
arguably not the most accurate, I suppose, mechanism for when it came to rimfires and rifles and that sort of stuff. But it was great. I loved it. That's what I learned to shoot with. Was
it more accurate than your 375 Shaytac? Well, actually, no. We'll hold off on answering that. We'll come to that later, mate. We'll come to that later. Anyway,
save that punch in the guts for later, mate. Yeah,
I will. I have to say that's probably the most interesting answer we've had for a first gun so far. So an open.
Yep.
Did you say open breech?
Fired from the open breech. So as you squeeze that trigger, that
whole thing closes up.
Yep, bolt shot forward, picked up the round, chambered it, fired it, and then recall operated back, and I think Dad bought it for $25 from a sports store back when you can just go and buy stuff like that.
Yep.
But I used that right up until 1996 as everybody would have. So
wow,
and that got replaced by a Bruno Model 2.
Okay, good. That's a good replacement. Have you still got that Bruno?
Yeah. Dad does, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, he's still got that.
Still in the family?
Yeah. Really fantastic little rifle. I actually, mucking around one afternoon with my mate Scott Payne, who you know, we put my Vortex AMG on it and then set up a profile in the Kestrel and actually shot it out to 200 metres.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, great rifle.
Yeah, fantastic, man. And so obviously you grew up in country, and so therefore this was all sort of done at a fairly young age.
Yeah, back when that sort of stuff wasn't frowned upon. So I would go and buy a pack of Winchester PowerPoints from the sports store, right up on my BMX, go and buy some ammunition as you do.
Yes.
And then I'd be taken out the road and I'd be let out of the car and I'd just wander around the property that I was allowed to shoot on until it was and Dad had come back at dark and picked me up. So I used to do that, and then when I got to high school I'd sort of occasionally skip double periods of something boring to then spend the afternoon shooting instead of going to school when I was in high school. So
good plan.
So did a lot of shooting when I was a teenager.
Yeah. Nice. And hunting as well through that period?
Look, that was all primarily hunting.
Yeah.
The only sort of target stuff I did up until I sort of left school was pistol shooting. And I was doing that because my dad was doing it. He was doing action match, centerfire, rimfire stuff. But action match was really cool. But as a family, we could only afford for one to be shooting action match, and I wasn't bringing any money in. So so that was Dad's baby. But I just used to shoot a little bit of pistols as well and that sort of stuff. But hunting and rifles was really where it was at for me. So
brilliant. And what in your shooting / equipment sort of history then? At some point you joined the army. Was that shortly after this, or when did you go from there?
So I actually went down to recruiting before I even finished high school, and they said, look, you're in, but you sure you don't want to finish high school? I'm like, yeah, right, Mum would be happier with that. So that's what I did.
Yeah. And
then as soon as I finished, pretty much packed a bag and went down to Melbourne, got sworn in, and off to Kapooka. So so my in that sort of in my teenage years and that sort of stuff, I purchased a Ruger M77 223 with the paddle stock, the old synthetic stock.
Ah, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was a very budget conscious purchase. But for the kind of shooting I was doing, really only really shooting stuff to 100, 150 metres and that sort of thing. It was more than accurate enough. Had I couldn't afford the gold crown, so I got the silver crown Nico Sterling scope to go on it.
My, how things have changed for you then. Yes. Yeah. Fair
Just
enough.
a little bit. Just a little bit.
Nice, mate. Nice. And then, so joining the army, obviously, you change grade of equipment a fair bit, or you change type of equipment by a significant amount. What was your standard firearm there?
So so sort of stepping in the army, everything became either semi-auto or full auto or both. And so the standard rifle that I got trained on at Kapooka was the F88 Ozsteyr. So and that's that was, I guess, the forefather to what is currently in service, being the F90. I think they went the EF88, which was the enhanced version, and that was a little bit more Picatinny rail, so the sight could be swapped out.
Yep.
The one I got trained on, which was the one I carried for my first overseas deployment, was the bog standard F88 with the fixed sight, couldn't be swapped or changed or anything. So, And look, really for a service rifle, for what it was put through, really quite exceptional for the kind of punishment that it copped.
Yeah.
Through the hands of lots and lots of trainees and that sort of stuff. Yeah, it was actually quite an exceptionally accurate and tough rifle. So, and that was, I guess, what I found myself carrying and using the majority of the time. But have used and qualified on a whole other suite of weapons and that sort of stuff, including a surface-to-air missile system when I was a soldier. That was interesting. But
that's something a bit different that we don't normally get access to. Did you ever have to use it, or you're not allowed to say?
No. So Australia has never fired surface-to-air missile system, missiles, as far as I'm aware, in anger.
Okay.
On operations.
Yep.
One was fired by accident, but it was subject to an investigation, all that sort of stuff, and no one was hurt. A couple of people were a little bit concerned, but it all sort of worked out in the end.
I told you not to press the red button. Damn it!
It's kind of a little like that. You probably need to get Scotty to tell you that over a beer out at the club one night.
Right. Probably a few beers to get that one out, I think.
Yeah, that's it. But no, when I fired mine was a Rapier surface-to-air missile.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was done as part of a training exercise out at Woomera training area, out on one of the big salt lakes. Yeah, so but it goes from sitting on a launcher unit to breaking the sound barrier in about 2 meters. So it actually breaks the sound barrier there. It's
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, but
because that's the one. That's the type of thing that sort of jumps out of the launcher and then takes off. Is that? Are we thinking the right thing, or is that different?
Oh, that one is probably the one you're thinking of. It sort of
javelin
has like a bit of a blow dart, and then it sort of takes off. Yeah, that's a javelin.
Okay.
Yeah. So gotcha. I haven't shot one of those or qualified on one of those because I didn't need to, but yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. There's my ignorance around that sort of weapon systems. But anyway, I'm never claimed to be an expert.
Oh no, you just perfectly described a javelin anti-armored rocket, so that's pretty cool.
There we go. Great.
Give yourself some credit, mate. It's not that bad.
Well, you and I both watch videos on them then. Great. Well, good on us. Look at us go and talk about videos we've watched. Andy, have you watched any good videos recently?
Nothing to do with missiles, mate. Sorry.
different type of missiles, I guess, for him. Anyway, moving on to something else. So during the time in Army, did you keep up like a civilian firearms interest?
Yeah. So I retained my civilian firearms license, and every time I'd go home and that sort of stuff on leave, I'd always make time to get back out to home and go and do some hunting and that sort of stuff. So, really sort of, ultimately, as I started to transition out of Army, during my posting up to, or my last posting up to the Gold Coast is when I sort of picked up a heavy barreled rifle and started sort of getting into the long range side of things and that sort of stuff. But yeah, all through my military career, always had an interest in shooting and hunted whenever I could. And I guess, from a bit of as being a firearms and shooting enthusiast, I was always a little bit disappointed with the amount of shooting that we didn't get to do in Army. It wasn't until we were getting ready to deploy and that sort of stuff, and then you just get bucket loads of ammunition thrown at you, and you'd go and do all this really cool shooting and training and practice and all that sort of stuff, and that was good. That was really good. But that's the exception rather than the norm.
Yeah, gotcha. Did you do any of the shooting competitions within the Army? I know when Badco, when we were doing the podcast with him, he would often talk about doing that sort of cross unit or whatever it is, shooting competitions. Did you do any of those?
No, I didn't. We used to do the brigade shooting competitions and that sort of stuff. And the units would, go out and do their own range practice and go, right, these are the top 5 scorers for the unit, and right, you guys show the most promise. Off you go. and
Yep.
and they'd fly the flag for the unit and that sort of stuff. No, there's some guys out there who really are exceptional at shooting the service rifle. Which is the service rifle from my perspective, my experience, was a really accurate rifle for what it was and what it could do, and the punishment it used to take, because it used to just get flogged.
Yeah.
So it was pretty damn good rifle in the end.
Nice, mate. Nice. And so
Yeah.
after that Ruger, obviously a bit parallel to what we're talking about there, but what was your next purchase to add into that collection?
Oh, after the Ruger, I had that Ruger for pretty much all throughout my entire Army career. That was my one rifle, my one go-to.
Yep.
And then in 2014, I bought a Remington 7600 308, which was my pig hunting rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Not an exceptionally accurate rifle, but it pointed really well, and it was pretty fast to use, but really needed to be abused, in terms of cycling and that sort of stuff, and a little bit fussy on ammo. Liked factory ammo, quite a lot, but anything that was a bit warmer and a hand load, mine didn't like. So, so I had that for a few years. Then the next one after that was a Remington mil-spec 5R in 308.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first long range gun.
Yep.
And that was actually an exceptionally accurate little 308. Actually, I was quite liked that rifle, but and then I decided that after I sort of felt like I'd sort of shot that as far as I could, I then sold it, and I regret selling it because it was a really nice rifle.
Just on that one, Ben, that was the Rem 700 that was the 5R barrel, and they
it was.
What stocks were they? I'm trying to remember that.
Oh, HS
brand.
Precision stock.
That's the one. Yeah. HS.
Yep. Alloy chassis.
Yep.
Or bedding block in it and that sort of stuff. And
because I was working
that was
a gun shop at that stage when they came out, and they were just they were reasonably well priced, and they had a really good reputation, as you said, and they shot well, and they were just flying off the shelves, so to speak. They were really popular, and plenty of those out there, and they seemed to do really well. So treated
I think
well.
I think later on I think they only came out in 308 initially, but then later on they did them in 223 and 300 Win Mag, if I'm not mistaken.
I reckon you're right.
Yeah.
I reckon you're right.
Yeah. So, and then they increased the price on us.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is really popular. Let's charge more. But I dabbled with a 7mm Rem Mag for a little while, and had some issues making that shoot. It was a Tikka, which was a bit sort of, I suppose, interesting that this Tikka wouldn't shoot. And looking back, I actually think what the problem was, I'd taken the recoil sort of, that little piece of alloy, that recoil lug out, and I'd put it back in, and I don't think I'd put it all the way in. And when I torqued up the action screws and that sort of stuff, that front part of the action just wasn't mating with the bedding surface in the stock, and it was sort of wandering around. And I couldn't diagnose what the problem was, because I didn't know what I didn't know at that point in time. So I ended up selling that for a song, and someone probably got a really great rifle out of it. And then I bought a Ruger Precision in 6.5 Creedmoor. So
nice. Back on that Tikka issue, I'd seen that quite a few times. I encountered that and then saw that. And again, back working the shop, we would have guns come in. And they're like, these guns aren't working. You grab it and you're like, hang on a second, shove it back and push it in and give it a little bump, and then tighten it back up and go, that should fix things now. It was pretty
Yep.
pretty common problem because they were that little recoil lug in there were just so tight in that slot that if you didn't line it up properly, the real downside was that it would actually clamp up. And what seemed to be okay.
Get your torque wrench to get that tension on it, but it wasn't mated properly with the actual bedding surface and that sort of stuff, and all the pressure was on that little recoil lug. So I was that guy.
Don't worry, there was a few of that guys. Plenty of those guys around. Yeah, nice. And so then you went from the Tika through to the RPR.
Yeah, the RPR, and I was in Queensland at the time, so folding stock was legit.
Mm-hmm.
And then on leaving, and that was a great rifle. For the money, exceptionally accurate. Yeah, really happy with it. But then left. When I left Army, came back to New South Wales. Folding stocks just they're just so sinister. So I had to sell it. And I then went for a conventional stock, and I thought, well, I'll just get a custom rifle built. So had a 6.5 Creed built on a Surgeon action.
Right.
So Surgeon action and Madco barrel, and Macmillan stock, and that was all done by my mate Russell in the ACT.
Yep.
That was an absolutely brilliant rifle, and I shot the shit out of that and cooked the barrel, and then. Called the guys at, called Danny at Delta Tactical, and they got me a proof barrel and took it back to Russell, and he spun that up, and that's currently wearing the proof barrel at the moment, and it's still exceptionally accurate. So, it's still in the safe. Still happy with that. So
still in rotation. Out of interest, how did you stumble upon Russell as your gunsmith?
That's an interesting story. So Russell was working in Wagga. He was a mechanic, working in Wagga and doing a lot of the machine work for the mechanics shop. And my brother was living with him. He was renting a room because my brother was at uni at the time. So my brother was renting a room, and that's ultimately how I ended up meeting him. But I started doing some martial arts whilst I was posted to Wagga in 2004. And Russell was one of the instructors. So, third Dan black belt taekwondo and that sort of stuff. He was one of my instructors. And, ultimately he ended up getting away from doing mechanical machining, and, again, being a mad avid hunter and shooter, did a lot of fly shooting and bench sort of stuff. Transitioned quite easily into gunsmithing. So that's how I met Russell. Was actually my brother was renting a room from him back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, right. There you go. I was hoping that by asking that question, you might have presented this story of how you sort of worked out, gunsmiths and sought reputations and narrowed it down to a particular choice, and it might be a process that people watching could replicate and learn from. But no. Not even close. Not even close. Yeah. So.
Yeah. There's a family link and friendships and loyalties and that sort of stuff. Look, all of those things being said, he's an exceptional gunsmith and he does some exceptional work. And all my rifles, bar one, which we'll get to, that he's built have been extremely accurate rifles and really great. So. The one that sort of stumped us was the Chaytac. That was the one that sort of,
Well, I'm holding off on that question. We'll get into that. I'll just
save that pain for later.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 6.5 was humming along well, but you've got a 300 Win Mag somewhere in that mix. Was that which one was that?
So the Win Mag. I had built. I actually bought it originally as a factory Sendero, and could not get it to shoot. And I thought, oh god, what's going on here? We put the bore scope down, and it turns out that the rifling grooves weren't cut the full length of the barrel. it was just a manufacturing issue.
No, it wasn't. It was just a Remington.
Yeah, and so with that in mind, it actually shot pretty well considering. But
Yep.
yeah, ripped the barrel off that. Stuck a Bartlein. Benchmark heavy Palmer, 1 to 10 on it, and I 26-inch barrel and dropped that in a Macmillan stock and put a trigger on it and that sort of stuff. And I actually had that built because back in those days, we were shooting the PRI.
Yep.
And that was, and still is in my mind, the best shooting competition, that I've ever done. It's field firing, just that kind of environment, and big targets, long targets, lots of different distance variations and that sort of stuff. You'd be getting one wind in one direction, same speed all day, but depending on where you were shooting from, you could have umpteen different wind calls. So so the 300 Win Mag was back in those days, for those big targets, out past a kilometre and out to a mile and that sort of stuff. That was what we all thought was going to get it done. And and for the most part it did.
Yeah, it was 300 Win Mag City back then. It was really, that was
it was.
Yeah, that was it. And things started to transition even over that period of time. Yeah,
I do recall there was a serial that I was shooting, and I can't remember what it was, but we're working our way out to distances with the ultimate aim to shoot the mile target. We had to pick up and move to a different location, and Luke McKinney was in my squad, and he and I were shooting on I think sort of side by side, and I think he had a 6x47. I think. And, I'm trying to walk and we're both shooting at the mile target, and I'm trying to walk my 300 Win Mag on a target, and he's just smacked the mile target with this 6x47 or a 6.5x47. I went, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a 6.
Yeah,
6
that was
mil.
that was damn impressive. Luke was proving back then that you didn't need 30 cal to get it done. So and as you said, things were starting to transition away from the big heavy 30 cals.
Yep.
To even shoot those distances. Yeah, even back then. So but I've still got the 300 Win Mag. So it's still in use at the moment, but hopefully I'll transition to something slightly more powder. So looking at the 300 Norma, but that's another conversation.
Right, very good. Well, we might take that break between conversations to have a little look at what's on the shelf. Nice smooth segue there. And I see. Yes. I don't know if it's a shelf behind you, but there's something interesting behind you. So maybe if you, I don't know if you can show that, but we'll get to that in a moment. What we've got here, we've got a couple of things. This arrived. It's some Ironside copper pen. You're actually the bloke that put us onto this. So I've got you to thank / blame. Andy, you can have that one.
Thanks, mate.
Considering you paid for it. Got a little bag here as well from Ironside as well. Let's have a little look in here.
The way that their stuff turns up is really nice.
No, it's magic, isn't it?
Really nice.
It's magic.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's too small for me. Andy, you want a shirt? There you go, mate.
It's also mine. Thank you.
I got to put it. Andy bought the shirt. What else?
Yeah, nice.
We've got. I found this in the collection. This is a. When I went to England or Europe a little while ago, I bought a few coasters, and I like this one. Just that's sort of what I grew up with. Hunting being the dream was the shotgun over the arm with the dog. Anyway, that's the style of hunting that was idolised when I was young. Probably because my dad's English. That's probably the Main thing. Speaking of these came in. Here's one of the plugs. Scoped out. These came in. 6 came in today, and there's 2 left. I think.
Ooh,
so
nice.
if you're after a Diamondback Tactical in Emirates, that's
You can throw that my way too.
Andy Catch. let's not do that. Speaking of PRI, this will maybe bring back some memories. This is one of the little trophies that we had per stage. And so the winners of the stage would get a little trophy. There's a Southern Shooters logo on the back there.
Nice.
STS sort of looking rip-off thing. And but this is one of the stages that this is the stage from that weekend that got cancelled, which was
right.
As we were learning how to write stages, still probably learning, it just didn't play out in a fair way. So we pulled the stage and no one got awarded the thing, so I kept it. So anyway. That's
nice. But it's you could actually use that for the rimfire comps now because it's
probably true.
It's the right size.
Probably true. So what have you got hiding behind you? Because I got something hiding behind me as well. But what have you got hiding behind you? I see something seems gun related and relevant.
Bear with me.
We're bearing.
Sorry, I just put all this back in.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so yes, this is my. Just stabbed myself with a pair of bloody antlers. We're doing it live.
You're not wrong.
So this is this is my this is a buckeye shot actually up at a place called Hall, just outside of the ACT, and I was actually there that weekend because I was supposed to be at a mate's wedding.
Yeah.
And I still went to the wedding, obviously, but we were late. We were late to the party the night before the wedding because we were too busy carrying this off the side of a hill.
Fantastic.
My mate said, "Oh, look, do you want to go for a shot? To fill in the afternoon?" I said, "Yeah, no worries. We'll go out there to this place he went to, which had a vineyard and." Always had a few deer sort of wandering in and out. So I borrowed his rifle and this fellow came wandering along and my mate had an electronic deer caller and he sort of got back up the hill a bit and I put myself in between him and the buck and he sort of had a bit of a slinging match going with the buck and I sort of made my way down the hill and I thought I was being so ninja. I thought I was so ninja until I found myself on this forward open slope and there he was about, 50 metres away, but he had his head up in the air sort of, smelling the air for scent and that sort of stuff that hadn't seen me just by sheer miracle. And it was actually one of the only times I've ever used the seated position to shoot from outside of an army, standard practice sort of shoot. I was going to shoot him offhand and I just, my heart was racing. I just couldn't hold the rifle still enough. So dropped on my butt, forearms on top of my thighs, steadied myself and dropped him with one shot with the 308. So, so we were late to the party.
You know what would have helped you with that shot?
A tripod?
Well picked up on, Ben. Well picked up on because that's what's
you laid it right there for me. I'm glad I picked that one up.
That's what's sitting right there. That's these one of the leveling based tripods from Leo Photos.
Oh, very nice.
This is going to be super awkward to do here, and it's slightly out of focus. But anyway, you got that, and you wind it around to wherever you need it, and then tighten it up like that. So anyway, I said there was 2 plugs, so that's the other one. Yeah, does that lock in with an Arca rail? Yeah, that's on the Arca.
Ooh,
yeah.
There you go.
Let's try and get. Actually, Andy, I might need back up here. This is not how you run a tripod. This is not how you run a tripod. Slide that gun out. Should be able to pull that. Oh, hang on. No, I've got a sling stud in there because I haven't changed my bipods over yet. But anyway, there you go. Out of the Arca.
Oh, yep.
Like that. Something like that.
So that's very nice. That's a lot of surface area. That's that's pretty cool.
Was that a fat joke?
No. In terms of like
Oh,
how
the
much
tripod, right?
yeah,
All right. Okay.
yeah, like how much of the rifle's actually on that. That's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there we go. Anyway, so there's a plug there.
Yep.
Nice Leo photo tripods. They kick around about $1,000 in that full setup. So check them out. All good. All good, mate. And speaking of scoped out scopes, what's been your history? Have you always shot with scopes? Did you start with open sights?
No, always really for rifle shooting. Always shot with scopes. Got a little lever action 357 Magnum, which was my 21st birthday present from my dearly departed grandmother. And so that's the only open sights I've really shot. So yeah, always been scopes. And as always, we when we start out, spend as little as possible on a scope because we want to spend as much as possible on the gun.
That's right.
And
that's right. Yep. That's
and now
quite the opposite.
Yeah, now it's sort of almost exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So now I'm very fortunate. I've got some great support from Carl's, and currently using their 525 with a Tremor 3 reticle, which is really nice. And I've got a 3 to 12 with the MSR reticle coming for a 223 Ackley improved that I actually just brought that back from Canberra on Wednesday. So again, Russell Lemaitre at Group Solutions Gunsmithing was my mate who did it, and it's just a little Hauer 223 that he's run the reamer a little bit further into to turn it into an Ackley, put a little muzzle brake on it. So that's Helen's rifle.
Nice.
I've decided to put a decent scope on that rifle for Helen because when she outgrows that rifle, the scope can stay. But no, it's I've got a couple of Night Force scopes as well, because Carl's won't put a scope on every rifle I own because that's not entirely feasible. But
sure,
their support is generous, but it's not endless. But no, I've got a on the 300 Win Mag. Currently is a Night Force ATAC 7 to 35. Tremor 3. That was on the Chaytac. Also got a Night Force NX8 with one of the mill reticles in that. So, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, so, got, slowly sort of upgraded. But, I've still got the Vortex AMG. That still lives on my comp rifle.
Yep.
So that's a fantastic scope. Really nice glass and a lot lighter than the Gen 2 Razor.
Yeah.
Which is sort of why I ended up picking on it. So yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. Brilliant. And you said that you this weekend you're setting up with your club, and obviously you're fairly involved. I don't know if you're still president. I know you're still involved with your club there.
You're still the club president.
Still president.
Last time I was out there, someone reminded me. You're still the president. Oh, great.
Yeah, here I am. Yep, good. But shotgunning's a bit of a thing that you do on the side, but you're not bad at it, are you? I didn't say you were good at it. I just said you're not bad at it.
I'm not great. True. Yeah. I don't suck all the time. No, I sort of got drawn into the field and game style and 5-stand shotgunning when I got back home, and our club is pretty active in that regard, and other surrounding towns have pretty strong sort of club support for that kind of style of shooting.
Yep.
My mate Darren, who everyone sort of knows, is one of the best field and game and 5-stand shooters in Australia. So so I've got him trying to coach me.
Yeah.
And some days he just leaves me be because he knows that no amount of coaching is going to solve the problems I'm experiencing. But
so what you're saying is that you're cool by association.
Yep, yeah, pretty much. We won our Christmas shoot last year because I was teamed with Darren, and he's been, I think, 7 times New South Wales state champion for 5-stand and represented Australia 3 times overseas. So he's pretty handy with a shotgun.
I bet, mate.
And that's good because at least I can sort of stick it to him a little bit. If we shoot a PRS comp and that sort of stuff, I can still beat him at something.
And what shotgun do you use? Have you gone through a few, or have you just sort of have you had much experience in the shotgun world?
Look, not really. I tried a couple of. I borrowed a number of different guns when I first sort of started getting into shooting field and game and 5-stand, and had some pretty ordinary experiences. Not because they were bad guns, but because they fitted horrifically. Like they were not. I was shooting. Initially I was shooting a left-handed stock that was shortened for a female that had some ply spaces sort of crudely screwed onto the back of it and that sort of stuff. But when it was a left-handed stock, I was never gonna be able to shoot it. Had shot a Beretta. That was again, it was a right-handed stock this time, so we were doing better. But again, shortened for somebody else. And I'm probably average height or maybe slightly taller, so I needed, and my arms are probably a little bit longer, so I needed a longer length of pull and that kind of thing. So, and I didn't understand at the time because I was a rifle shooter. I just assumed just pointed in general direction, just pulled the trigger, and you were going to blast stuff out of the sky.
Yep.
Not true. I didn't understand that getting the gun to fit you was the same as zeroing. Like that was the same. It was as important as having your scope zeroed on a rifle. Getting the gun to fit you, so that where you look and where it points is exactly the same place. That all comes down to gun fit, as I later found out. And that was a big learning curve. But I found that the Berettas were a little bit sharper on the recoil pulse, but Marokas, the Marokas I'd used were fairly gentle, quite forgiving, and for the money, they were pretty good value. So I ended up with a Maroka, just a grade 3 Maroka, second hand, but given the amount of shotgun shooting I do and the level at which I'm at and where I intend to be with it, it's more social than competitive. It's always nice to go out and shoot a good round, but I've got to pick. Is it shotgunning or is it long range shooting and that sort of stuff? And long range shooting always wins for me. So I'll pour so much money into long range, eye-watering amounts of money, as you well know.
Well, that might. I was going to say that might bring us on to our next topic then.
That is an excellent segue. Excellent segue.
Just burning money and throwing it about, and anyway. Which brings us, I guess, to the start of the long gun project / the 375 long range goals and everything that goes along with that. So, you obviously had a desire to shoot long range, and you went down the path of getting a 375 made. Did you do that to start the Long Gun Project YouTube channel, or was it the other way around?
No, it was the other way around. Like I wanted to shoot like super long, and I'd good old YouTube, watch some King of the 2 Mile. I'm like, yes, I want to do that.
Yep.
I want to like maybe not 2 mile because that's 3.2 k's. It's a freaking long way.
Yeah.
Okay. 2.5 k's. I'll be so stoked with 2.5 k's. And I was looking at what kind of stuff should I be doing and looking at and that kind of thing. And, Brian Litz, with the Applied Ballistics guys, had a few articles out on ELR stuff, and that was to me really, really cool, really exciting, fascinating sort of stuff. And so went down that path of ordering the 375, and whilst I was sort of waiting for all the components to come in and that sort of stuff, I went looking for YouTube content on ELR, on sort of that kind of big caliber stuff, and I could find stuff on people shooting big calibers.
Yep.
But it was, here's me, here's my target, I'm going to shoot the target. Blam, 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 hit the target. Job's a good one. Yep, video's over. It's like, okay, there's not a lot of information that I can take away from that as to, okay, how can I replicate that? And anyway, so I was thinking about it, and then we got talking and that sort of stuff. And I was at the time sort of thinking, you were doing your impact dynamics videos and that sort of stuff, and I thought, maybe I'll make a video or two and you put it on your channel. And you said to me, dude, you can just start your own channel. I was like, wow, never actually thought of that, because at the time it was a bit daunting. So I thought, well, okay, if there's not a lot of stuff out there and that sort of thing, and I am going to go to the trouble of having this rifle built and that sort of stuff, I can document it or share the journey, the highs, the lows, the tears, the pain, the financial ruin that comes with it, and maybe people will learn from it or not. But yeah, so that was sort of how I sort of wound up going down the YouTube rabbit hole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And that 375, and obviously the channel's expanded a bit beyond the 375, but that long range journey, was there a lot more there than you thought was going to take place?
Yeah, actually there was. Like, I was thinking that I was going to do 5 or 6 episodes. Yeah. And that whole thing was gonna be done. Yeah. And there was a lot more to unpack there. And then when I was if there was a delay with something that was happening with the 375, I would sort of go, well, I've got some other stuff that I'm doing with my PRS rifle, or other bits and pieces, or after a shoot that we've done, I'd have some video from a shoot that we've done, do a bit of a very brief recap. Yeah. Shout out to all the guys who shot really well and placed and that sort of stuff, and occasionally throwing a bit of video of me like ripping the leg off my tripod, or something like that.
I remember that.
For some shits and giggles, and then right, okay, we'll move on to some other stuff that I'm doing. Whether it was load development, or trying to figure out what's wrong with a rifle and finding out the barrel's burnt out, or just I'm going to try and see how far I can shoot this thing, or whatever it is. So and that opened some doors. I picked up Wedgetail Industries as a sponsor, which was really great, and through them that's opened doors to a range of different things. Some of their industry and development partners and that sort of stuff have been very generous in terms of letting me come and spend time with them, which has been really cool. It's this ongoing thing. So that's it's way bigger than I thought it was going to be. So the subscriber base is surely but slowly building. Not due in no small part to you wearing a subscribe to the Long Gun Project T-shirt. Righteous. Look at that.
There you go.
You're a legend.
Just subscribe to the Long Gun Project. Get into it. get into it. I did like your reaction when I wore that on the show and you didn't know about it. That was that was great. That was classic reaction. Anyway, now but there's been some really fascinating videos and you do a really good job. And just quickly for those camera freaks, because I know we've got a few guys who really love that side of things as well.
Yep.
What's your sort of go-to camera sort of stuff that you're running?
Yep. So I'm actually running a small, relatively inexpensive Sony A6500, and it's with a decent lens on it, it actually does a pretty good job. I can do up to 4K. I can do up to 4K in 24 frames a second. I can do 60 and 120 frames a second in lower definitions and that sort of stuff. Was running initially like a little roadie shotgun mic with a dead cat on it.
Yeah.
And I've since upgraded to a lapel mic.
Yep.
Which just helps. You can get so much better sort of voice audio and that sort of stuff just by running something like that. And also with a little dead cat on that, the wind noise reduction is really great too. So generally my main lenses, I've just got a standard 50mm, which works out to be I think about 85 equivalent, because it's a 3/4 APS-C size sensor, I think it is. So it's a little bit smaller sensor, so you get a little bit of cropping there. But so that's if I want to do really pretty, soft focus, shallow depth of field stuff, which looks really nice, I'll use the standard lens.
Yep.
Everything else I just use the basic zoom lens, and I've got a little Ronin.
Gimbal.
S, I think it is, the smaller one, not the big gimbal, but the small one.
SC, I think, is the one you've got. I think I've got the SC.
Yep.
You've got the SC. Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, yep, SC. For drone stuff, I'm running a Mavic Zoom.
Very jealous.
And because I had a choice of the Mavic Pro and the Mavic Zoom, and the Mavic Pro's got the big Hasselblad sensor and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure guys are starting to talking about lenses and sensor sizes and stuff like that. They're probably like, I'm just turning this shit off right now. But I found that having the Zoom, because I was thinking a lot about the kind of footage I wanted to get, and being able to be sort of off target or someplace else, and being able to zoom right in to catch impacts and that sort of thing was going to be more useful to me than having a really big sensor and then having to crop right in on that in post-production sort of stuff. So, and that's turned out to be the right choice for me. So, so that's sort of mainly the gear that I'm running. All my editing's done on DaVinci Resolve 16, which is free software, which is great.
Excellent.
So
there's a little camera geek out moment. We got to get them in when it's relevant. So good stuff. Thanks for indulging. But back onto one of the videos that you did a fantastic job recently was the chopper shooting. That was something that most people don't get a chance to do. So can you tell a little bit about the equipment? I don't know if you know the chopper that you were in or anything, but any of the equipment and gear that you used for that one.
Yeah, so that was up in southeast Queensland. That training, I was put onto that by Wedgetail Industries. So they have a connection with Impact Firearms Training, run by Mark, and fantastic guy. So I got essentially allocated a slot on his training weekend. Yep. So we went up to southeast Queensland. We do all the obligatory checks, and everything is it's all accredited training and that sort of stuff. So you do walk away with qualifications which allow you to use firearms from aircraft for the destruction of pests, which is really cool. And you've got to demonstrate certain degree of rifle shooting accuracy on the ground. and then a lot of I suppose rehearsal sort of stuff on the ground to prepare for shooting out of the helicopter. So we then went on the day that we were doing our actual testing for that. Went out to went further west. Actually, went out past Biggin, where obviously the Jarratt Trigger and the guys have their club and occasionally when there's no COVID, get to run a PRS round. Went out past.
They've got a team match coming up into September. Just get the plug in there. I know it's full, and there's probably a waiting list. But if you're thinking about it, jump in on it anyway. Yep. Get your name on the waiting list. Go and help out. If you're up in Queensland, that'd be a really good way to do it. Go and support the guys. They run a good club out of there. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah.
Just you said Biggin, so we got to talk about him.
Yeah, absolutely. So went further west out to a peanut farm, and
okay. Yep.
Yeah, and we our chopper was a Robinson R44, 4-seater, and we were using a wedge-tail WT15, so it's the 223 Remington semi-auto.
Yep.
So we had a pilot, a spotter in the back, and the operator in the front. So we were allocated a certain amount of airtime, and we're just the pilot had come in. We did ground briefing, so everyone gathered around the chopper, and when you've got the rifle, this is the box that rifle can move in for all things, whether it's shooting, loading, whatever. If you need to move outside of that box, you don't, and you can talk to the pilot and you'll go back around and go again.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you need is for you to put a bullet hole through the skid or
anything.
Anything that rotates that keeps you in the air and that sort of stuff.
Or anything that shouldn't rotate and it's going to start to if you put a hole in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Anything.
So, everybody got a chance to sort of, sit in the seat and that sort of stuff while we're on the ground and sort of familiarise themselves with, where they're going to be. It's dual controls, so you've got foot pedals there. So again, you don't want to be kicking the foot pedals while he's flying the aircraft while you're shooting, or dropping mags and having them get jammed under the foot pedal while he's flying.
Yep.
Because that's
not great.
No one enjoys that. So really be cognizant of where what you were doing. Speed was not the name of the game for that kind of stuff. It was all about being deliberate and that sort of stuff with what you're doing. And we had the main test of objectives was a series of ground targets, which you can see in the video. They're just panels of core flute on the ground. So you had to be able to put your rounds onto that, or you do as many passes as you needed to make sure that you met the required standard, and the spotter was in the back watching that to make sure you did it.
Yep.
And when you're doing feral pest destruction from the air, you have a spotter, whose job it is to ensure that you've actually destroyed that animal before you can move on to the next one, type thing. So but that was pretty interesting, and really great day. The movies make it look way easier than it is in real life. Who knew, right?
Yeah, amazing like that, isn't it?
Who knew?
Wow. It's probably the only thing they do that with, isn't it? Only thing they really gloss over and just make look so simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just movie.
Yeah. Because everything else is, probably they put more emphasis on realism for everything else. But
for sure.
But you don't realise, just because you're sort of cruising along, in the air and that sort of stuff, you're not flying as fast as you would be in a fixed wing, but you're also, you don't realise how fast you're still going. And you then stick half your body out and a rifle out the window, and it's 120 kilometres an hour worth of wind. Yeah, and I'm just going to hold this rock steady and just totally snipe shit as we fly past it doing 120 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah. Funnily enough, everybody does 2 passes. at least 2 passes to get their shit in one sock and get rounds on target. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, that's it's all part of the experience. I mean, you can't know what it's like to shoot out of a moving helicopter until you've shot out of a moving helicopter.
Fair.
So, which incidentally, for all my years in Army, shooting out of a moving helicopter was not something I'd ever done. And to be fair, the air crew don't encourage it in Army.
Okay.
They tend not to encourage that kind of stuff. It's normally somebody else's job. Someone's got a dedicated role for that. So right. But no, look, that was a lot of fun. I was running as far as camera gear went. I was actually running the little DJI Osmo action cameras. So similar to the GoPro, but the image stabilization on those things was excellent, and captured some really nice footage. And I only was able to mount one camera to the chopper because the pilot was a little bit worried about me sticking shit all over his aircraft. I don't know why he was so precious about it, but anyway.
Weird.
But
weird.
no. Yeah. So, but no. I got one camera on there, and I think it did a really good job of capturing that. The pilot said, it's gonna look shit. It's gonna vibrate and stuff, and it didn't. It really didn't. It captured some really great footage. So I was really impressed with it. But
I'm just trying to work out how to take the technology out of one of those DJI Osmos and apply it to my rifle somehow. Because that would help immensely if we can work that out. So if you can get onto that, Ben, that'd be really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Look. I believe gyroscopically stabilized stuff is stuff that people are working on, particularly for aircraft mounts and that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Oh well, get onto that if you can put that in and plug it onto the top of the tripod, and then we're good to go. Yeah, happy days.
Yep.
Won't miss it all, Andy. Won't miss it all.
I never do.
Oh, well, on that massive lie, we may as well wrap up. So, Ben, we could talk for hours on this stuff, but there is your YouTube channel. Go and check it out. Andy, I bet you've watched a few of the videos. They're
definitely
good
have.
Stuff. Yeah. So, I'll put the top up again, but go and subscribe to the Long Gun Project. And we did get your goal. We did kick over 1,000 subscribers. So, excellent. Which is good.
I think I've got a screenshot from just before you started to really wear that t-shirt and really start plugging the Long Gun Project on socials. And I think it was something like 660 something subscribers back in, I think it was May of this year. I think I'm up to 1,290 something, 1,300.
1.31 thousand is where you're sitting now. So keep on going. Let's go 2,000. Come on, 2,000. Let's do it. Anyway, very good, mate. You got some awesome stories. Look forward to seeing more of those come out in videos. And thank you very much for your time and joining us and talking about all your history and. Guys can follow you on Facebook and on Instagram at The Long Gun Project. But, of course, make sure you subscribe to The Long Gun Project on YouTube. Awesome.
YouTube, yep. That's the way. Fantastic, mate. And look, Rusty, Andy, thanks for having me on yet again.
No, it's your first time on Gear Night. It's first time, mate. It's haven't had you before.
It actually has been,
Yeah, so I don't know what you're talking about. Brilliant. Anyway, all right, Andy, thanks so much for pressing the buttons, doing all the things. It's always good to have you. And
thank you, Andy.
Guys, thanks so much for watching. For all the guys who were saying good day, we didn't quite get there with all of you as Ben was talking about all sorts of interesting stuff. But we will be back next week with all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. Podcast coming out, all that sort of gear. Catch you later. Take care. See you. Weekend. Yeah.